Today's video is going to be about multiplying decimals, and we're going to go through some steps that will help you be successful with this concept. The first step is you're going to estimate the factors in the multiplication problem. These are the two numbers that you multiply together to get the product. You can do this two ways. You can use rounding or you can do compatible numbers. We're doing this so that once we get an estimated product and then we actually do the multiplication of the decimals, our estimation should be really close to our real product, and that will help us, because if you have something that's way off, you know you probably did something wrong when you were putting your decimal back into the problem, which I'll explain in just a minute. So once you've estimated your factors, you're then going to actually multiply those estimated numbers together.
Say, for example, one of my factors is going to be 1 2/10. So if I were to round that, I would round that to the nearest whole number, and I would say that that is going to be rounded to a 1. And then if my other factor were going to be 2 7/10, then I would round that to the nearest whole number, which would be a 3.
And from there, you're going to take those two numbers and actually multiply them together to get your estimated product. So 1 times 3 would be 3. So when we get done multiplying the decimals, our answer should be pretty close to the number 3. Okay, so your third step, and remember you're still writing this on the teacher side, is to actually do the multiplication with the decimals. Because we're going to forget about the decimals when we're doing multiplication, you can use any method. You can still do traditional, you can still do your box, and you can still do the lattice. Which the reason you can use all three of those is because we're going to ignore the decimals at first.
You would multiply the problem in the same way as you would normally, ignoring the decimals. And I'm going to use the traditional method. So 3 times 7 is 21, 2 times 7 is 14, adding my 2, it's going to be 16, 7 times 1 is 7, plus my 1 that I've carried is 8. Then I'm going to work with my tens place. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. Then I add. I get 1. 6 plus 6 is 12. 8 plus 4 is 12. Plus my carried 1 is 13. And then I have 3. So I've got a product that the way it looks now is I've got 3, 3, 2, and a 1, but I have to decide where my decimal place is going to go.
So that's going to be our next step. So your fourth step now is going to be to decide where the decimal needs to go in your product. We're going to look back at the problem that was just done. Right now, when she was multiplying, she didn't even think about these decimals. She just multiplied like normal as if those decimals weren't even there. So she has this product right here of 3, 3, 2, 1. What you have to do is you have to look in both factors and see how many numbers are behind the decimal. So in this 1 and 2300ths, I see 2 numbers behind the decimal. So there's 2. In this factor, 2 and 7/10, I see 1 number behind the decimal. So that makes a total of 3 numbers behind the decimal. And that's exactly how many I have to put behind the decimal in my final product. So I start here, 1, 2, 3. So my final product is 3 and 321 thousandths. So if we look back at this one, when we took the 1 and 2300ths, that was about 1. 2 and 7/10 was about 3. 1 times 3 is 3. So here is our estimation of 3. 3 and 321 thousandths is really close to the whole number 3. So we did our steps correctly. If I come up with, say, 33 and 21 hundredths, that wouldn't have been close to my estimation, so it would have told me, go back and think again, see if I multiplied wrong, see if I put my decimals in the wrong spot. So step 5 will say count.
You're going to count the number of digits behind the decimal place in the two factors, and then that will be the same number of digits that will be behind the decimal place in your product.
Okay, so we're going to do a couple more examples so that you can really see how this is working in context instead of just us talking and you writing down some steps. So you can watch these and then we'll give you some to try on your own on the student side, or you can look at the problem, pause us, and see if you can try it without us walking you through the steps. So let's say we have 3 and 29 hundredths times 5 and 1/10. Step 1 was to estimate the factors. So 3 and 29 hundredths is about 3. 5 and 1/10 is about 5. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply those. My answer, when I get done with the real multiplication, it should be close to 15. I'm going to go ahead and do the lattice method for those of you that do lattice, so you can see it a multiple of ways. So I've got 329 because I'm ignoring my decimals. They don't exist right now to me. I just want to get the product. And then 51. I said I was ignoring the decimals. I'm just going to use these numbers to multiply them together, and then we'll go back to the last few steps to put the decimal back in. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10. 9 times 5 is 45. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. 9 times 1 is 9. Now in my ones place I have 9. In my tens place I have 7. My hundreds place I have 7. My thousands place I have 6. In my 10,000s place I have 1. So right now my product is 16779. If you notice, we did not read it as 16,779 because when we put that decimal back in, it's going to change the value of each digit.
I see that in 3 and 29 hundredths, there are 2 digits behind the decimal. Then in 5 and 1/10, there's 1 digit behind the decimal. So I'm going to have 3 digits that are going to be behind the decimal in my product. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to move to the left 3 places. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to place my decimal point right here between the 6 and the 7, making 16 and 779 thousandths.
And if you look, the final product of 16 and 779 thousandths is pretty close to 15. So we weren't off by, almost 2 whole numbers, because that's almost 17. But we're still really close, and that's what you're looking for, is that they're pretty close. You don't want to be, 20 off from your estimation and your final product. You want to be within a few numbers, okay?
If I had placed my decimal point, say, between the 2 7s by accident, then I would have looked and said, oh wait, 167 is way different than 15. So I have probably made an error here. So let me check. Let me go back and check and count my decimal place, or my digits behind my decimal place, because I've probably placed the decimal in the wrong place.
What we've done here is we've given you 3 sample problems that we want you to try to do by yourself on the student side in your journal. It's okay if you feel a little bit of struggle as you're working on them, because they are brand new concepts to you, and we will discuss them together in class.